So I think let's just begin with our very first question to understand and put a context that what really is play therapy. When you say play therapy, what do you mean by
In simple words, play is the work for children. Because children can't communicate verbally so much what they are feeling, what their emotions are, what they are going through, and all the time, whatever the time have to discover themselves, to spend time with it, spend time with toys, and during the play, they spend so much time doing that activity. So, clinically speaking, play therapy is used by a therapist, a psychologist, to understand more about children through play, through their fantasies, through symbolic play. They communicate with children. So this is basically a play therapy, and it is used in the proper setting, and the setting in the is called as a playroom, where a psychiatrist or psychologist have a playroom full of toys which are maybe open-ended play or sand play or these kind of toys where children can express themselves. They can tell what they are feeling through their play, and psychiatrists or psychologists observe them while playing, ask them relevant questions to understand what is going in their head and what is troubling them emotionally and psychologically. So this is basically a play therapy in short.
there's so much of in depth. I mean, if you're really observing how what a child is doing with the toy, which means
Yeah.
the toy has to be designed keeping all of these parameters in mind. So that brings me to our next question, which is what really goes on into designing a toy, or how is a toy designed? What do you look at? What are the parameters that you think about when you look at designing a toy? Is it, what is the age group? Is it, what is the outcome of the play? How do you plan that? What is the
Yeah.
process?
Sure, that's a very nice question, Murnal. Actually, design process is very simple. It starts with the observation. As I just mentioned, that children can't express themselves through words and verbally. So we need to observe them a lot at play or at their ease. So first, when we design any toy, we start with observing children, or maybe we ask them to draw whatever is in their mind in the context of our toy, whichever toy we are designing. So for example, we are designing any character based toys. So we asked, I mean, this is my personal design process. So I asked them to draw or maybe a character, whichever they like, or what do they like in a character, maybe to give a name to the character, what all features do they like in that character. So from this, I mean, I conclude that what children like, and not only one child, but maybe 20, 30 children, and then we see what are the common elements, and then we incorporate those in our design. So first stage is observing children. Second is coming to the drawing board after the conclusions, that whatever we have observed from children. So I start conceptualizing a toy. So maybe, various ideas, what should be in the toy, and definitely safety parameter is the basic hygiene while designing any toy. So that has to be there. So keeping that in mind, that how toy should be, it should not have sharp corners, it should be rounded edges, and it should be very ergonomic to hold by a child, because child is going to hold it, and it should not be very heavy as well. So we choose the right kind of material for a toy. So after conceptualization, the material stage comes where we are choosing the materials from which we are going to make a toy. So as I mentioned, if the size is very big, so we will not choose any material which is very heavy, or maybe a wood or something, where to use wood, where to use plastic, where to use fabric. So that all depends on which toy we are making, right? So then after finalizing the material and the design, we move towards engineering design, that is called a detailing, design and development. So how the toy parts would fit together, if there are any movable joineries, how would they work. So that is called as engineering design. Once this is finalized, the next stage is prototyping. So prototyping is very necessary because one, you get to know the size and shape of your product which you are going to make, manufacture, right? And second, very important is you are going to give that prototype to a child to understand whether a child is comfortable with that size, that shape, how the child is holding it, is there any ergonomic issues. The foremost important thing is it instantly likable by children. So that also we need to test. So it is a testing prototype. So after the prototype is tested and liked by children, we move to next stage, where we are actually making a manufacturing data, and maybe the that I already mentioned, the choosing the right kind of material. So it goes for manufacturing. So while in the manufacturing, there are certain things which we have thought and these are not possible in manufacturing. So we do to and fro process, where do iterations, and whatever is manufacturable, we do that. So that is an iterative process. Then the product goes for manufacturing, and then it is available for everyone. So this is in short the design process which I follow generally.
Wow, that's really very exhaustive. I don't think anyone knows what really
It's
we
very
take
interesting.
for granted. I think it's going through such a complex path of really designing a toy and getting it tested by a child to know what the issues can be. But now,
Yes.
tell me, Suhasini, nowadays, there are so many options in terms of toys that every household you will see that, children have an endless, supply of toys.
Yes.
So how can, how do you also ensure when you're designing a toy that the same toy can be played with in multiple different ways? How do you ensure that it's such a huge competitive market with so many toys coming up all the time? How can the same toy also be played in different ways?
Yeah, so that's very interesting point of view actually, and I generally keep this in mind while designing toys, that it is called as open-ended toy or open-ended play, where the toy is used in multiple ways or infinite ways for different children in different ways as per their creativity, their imagination. So definitely this is a factor, where for example any blocks or any puzzles, whatever we design, so it need not be a particular shape or particular guidelines that we give. It is open ended to a child, that in whichever way they want to play, they can play with it. Any number of ways of playing are there. We just nudge them that this can be played in these ways, but they can explore on their own. In fact, in this, parental guidance is very important. Involvement of parent is also very important in this. If the parent is getting involved, then child is very happy, and it becomes an interactive play. So that interactive play is very important for any child's growth when the parent is playing with the child. So if the toy is open ended, parent is also very comfortable playing with a child, because parent can make stories on the spot. They can tell stories which is not right or which is not wrong. So there is nothing right and wrong about it, and there is no instruction sheet to it that this can be played this way only. So that is the best way of playing, and that is the best toy for any child, I think.
Then this is so important and amazing for your imaginative process as well, that you're able to play the same toy in so many ways.
Absolutely.
It requires skill, imagination, creativity, and having a parent with you also enforces that connection between the parent and child. So when we are now that you're talking about this open-ended play, can you give examples about what open-ended play is? What toys come as a part of that open-ended?
See, dollhouse also comes under the open-ended play, because when you go give dollhouse to a child, generally dollhouse is designed in such a way that it is a miniature version of our house, right? Anybody's house, and it is designed in such a way that it is open from at least two sides. So one can put their dolls, their furniture into it. They can tell stories about. In fact, dollhouse is used in play therapy a lot. If we talk about play therapy also, it is used there, because then you are imitating what your parents do as a doll.
Yes.
So any trauma or anything that child is going through, so play therapists also, play therapists also understand very well what child is doing with that dollhouse, where what all kind of play he is doing with that dollhouse. So it is also called as open ended play, where child is using completely his imagination, his creative process to play with it. So it is a symbolic play also, what is going in child's mind. So for a parent also, if parent is involved in the play at home setting, I'm not talking about clinical setting, then home setting also, parent is getting to know what my child is thinking. Maybe, if parent has scolded a child and that child is showing through a doll and doll is not happy, doll is not eating, doll is not sitting on the dining table to eat in the doll house, then all these are symbolic play. So parent is also, getting to know so much about a child. So this is one example of open-ended play. Second example would be blocks, where you have a cubicle or rectangular blocks where child can make any castle or anything out of it, any animal. So there is no defined form to it. What has to be made? It can be anything. So it can be a living being, it can be an object, it can be anything one child can make out of it. So this is very important for the growth of a child.
This is so amazing, this point that you have put across, Suhasini, that when you are playing with the doll, that parents can also observe what the child is observing in her or his own environment, be it school,
Absolutely.
and how they treat their dolls are also how they are treated by their parents and friends and peers. And by observing just that, one gets to know so much about the child itself. And the doll used to be, the whole dollhouse concept used to be so popular, at least in my childhood, Bhatukli or dollhouse, and one could really play in that, the small pots and pans and cooking for hours. And this was the most immersive play as well. And some of the most memorable play is, I think, the dollhouse play and the blocks.
Yes.
Also, as you said, you can make, I mean, this is one play that one can never get tired of. You can have as much of imagination and creativity when you
and the best part, one more point I would like to add here is, the best part of this open-ended play or a dollhouse, for example, is that one can play solo also, and one can play in groups, in social setting also, with their peers, with their friends, with their siblings. So it is, in one sentence, if I have to tell this, it is good alone and better together. So
wonderful.
Yeah.
Good alone and better together. Yes.
Yeah.
So Suhasini, nowadays children have so many toys. If one has to tell a parent that if you had to buy few toys, I mean, do we, first of all, do children need so many toys, like a plethora of toys in the first place? And if one had to point out and get just the right kind of toys, what would you advise? Like, which are the toys that a child should always have? If you need to have only few things, what should be there in those few toys that one should have?
That's a valid point, Ronal, and I'm glad that you picked up this point. Actually, as a toy designer also, I feel that child should not have many toys, because then child is getting confused. So some toys are doing something to the kids, some toys are doing something encouraging, something, child is getting confused all the time, and the attention span becomes so reduced, I mean so low, that one toy gets 15 minutes, other toy gets 10 minutes. Instead, if your child have 4, 5 or 7, 8 toys maximum, and those are different toys for different particular things, then child's concentration span will be more on a particular toy. So he will be spending more time on the toy rather than having many toys together. That is the first thing. Second thing, if you have those particular 7, 8 toys together, then they can mix match and make a story out of it and play together. So they have less toys and they can, make it one toy together and play with it. For example, if you have blocks, if you have a doll, maybe you have a scarf to play with, and you have a sand play, you have animals. So what you can do is you can make a castle out of a block, put a sand play in front of it, make a sea out of the scarf, and you tell stories that your castle is on the seashore and your animals are there. Animals are going in the castle and dolls are kings and queens. So this is, for example, I'm giving a small story. But then, again, I will be iterating the same thing. Then parents needs to be involved in this and nudge their children to make stories and, to mix those toys together. So, these are the basic toys which, every child should have. Some learning toys, some open-ended play toys, some pretend play toys, role play toys. So, not many, but very few, but very selected toys are needed actually.
Absolutely. And I think from what you're
Yeah.
saying, the kind of play that one is doing in terms of imagination, creating that story is also, I think, in that age, you also learn how to do problem solving,
Yes.
your imaginative, thinking. All of
Yeah.
this is actually getting, getting built up at this stage with imaginative play. So, coming to adults now, just as so
Yeah.
much of play therapy and toys and imagination are used for children, what is really play therapy when it comes to adults? Or what is the concept of adults and play?
See, I would put it in a different way. It is not a play therapy for adults.
Hmm.
It is play as a therapy for adults. Because as we started on this note, what is play therapy, and in the clinical setting, how children are playing, and a psychiatrist or a therapist is observing them. But in adult scenario, you're not going to play very innocently, and nobody is going to observe you, and nobody is going to make out of what you are playing is very symbolic, and what are the conclusions out of it, because you are an adult. You can speak verbally, you can express yourself verbally also. So in that case, it is not a play therapy, but as an adult, when you are using a toy to yourself, and you are using a toy to express yourself to yourself, not to the therapist or not to the anyone, that is for a smaller children, right, in a setting. But I think that is a very meditative thing when you are making your own toy, or when you have a smaller toys, it becomes your buddy. Or there are so many things happening globally. There are toys for adults, for example kid robot, so that is a miniature toy, where the toy is a robot, and it's a black toy, and you get to paint that toy in your imagination, maybe a superhero, maybe any other character you wish to. So then you express yourself through that, and when you create your own toy, it becomes your best buddy. And with that toy, actually people talk to their toy. This also happen. They take their toys to their offices, they keep their toys on their desks. I have seen this in Korea. I have visited Korea. So South Korea, actually Seoul. So I have seen people having a small planter, having small collectible toys, and they name their toys also. I mean, adults of age 30, 35 years, 40 years old are doing that. So they have somebody to talk to, where they are expressing themselves. So I call it as play as a therapy. So toys play a very important role in our lives as adults also.
So, Suhasini, when we are using for adults play as a therapy and having a
Yeah.
buddy to speak to, is it also reflecting on our culture back? Uh, does it also mean that we are more and more lonely? We have fewer friends, fewer companions. There is no one to talk to, because
Yep.
that's the only reason why one would have a buddy, to be able to have
Yeah.
this conversation with someone. And as you said, that this is going on in Korea or in Japan, that you have a
Yeah.
buddy to speak to. So is this
Yeah.
designed by that person themselves, or are there these adult toys available for people who need that buddy for conversation or just for companionship?
These toys are made by companies also. One example is Kid Robot is a company. I have explained that they sell blank toys where one can paint. Second very popular brand is Ugly Dolls in US. So they make these dolls which are monstrous and very it's not ugly looking, but it is for adults. So they buy these toys and they keep it with themselves, and there is a name also given to the toy. There are characteristics to the toy. So whichever characteristics match to the personality of the person, that person instantly relate to that toy and buy that toy. So this is how companies are selling also toys internationally for adults, and definitely adults are buying in different countries. But in our country, our context is little different. People, when they become parents, they suddenly feel that they become very aged, and they have aged, and they become very matured. So that if they feel like talking to somebody, they actually they are not very free spirited. So they feel that this is not a good thing, that if I'm talking to my toy, people will call me mad or something. But that is not the case. It's a good thing to talk to yourself through a toy or through an object. Maybe you have a plant, you are talking to a plant also, that is also good. So spending time with ourselves and our own personality, to know about our own self is very important. And that happens through objects like toys, or maybe that happens through plants and any other living object, maybe your pets also, maybe a cat, maybe a dog. You can talk to your cat or dog, right? So similarly, a toy is there to talk to. So yeah, so that is very important, and that is a stress buster also. So when you have spent time with these kind of things, you feel little less stress. You have happy hormones flowing in your body, so you feel very happy about it. So, and when you are playing and when you are alone, we are spending time, there's nobody judging you. So nobody is saying that you are doing something in a wrong way or in a right way. So there is nothing uh, this way or that way. So it is like whatever you feel, you do it. So that's how we become very stressed when we not very free, and we think that maybe we should not do this, maybe we should not behave in certain manner when we are 30 plus, when we have two kids. So we become suddenly a different person. In India, particularly, I have observed, but we don't give importance to play also. But
So
play,
it's also what you're saying is giving you that freedom to explore, to imagine.
Yeah.
Because I think in India, as you said, perhaps talking to a plant or talking to a pet, a cat or a dog is far more easier than the concept of, say, talking to a toy.
Yeah.
Something that's new for us to be able to do that. But how important is this to when you have these conversations with that pet or the plant or the toy, is also being able to, I think, find a release for your emotions, have someone to have a conversation with. And how does this really work on impacting your your emotional your emotional body, your emotional health? How does this really talking to toy or to plants or to pets, what is really happening? I mean, just to understand the whole psychological process.
See, I'm not from a psychologist background, but to certain extent, I can answer to this, not in a very clinical language, but in a layman's language. Is that definitely there are two things going. One thing is going continuously in our head. We are thinking about it, we are mulling it over again and again, and we are feeling like we are stuck somewhere. We are not finding a solution. Then we become very anxious. Anxiety leads to panic attacks, and we don't know what to do. So these things lead to something bigger. But what is going on in our head, if we utter through our verbs, through verbally or through our words to somebody or something, we don't generally find. Maybe we have a lot of friends. I don't say that we don't have friends. We have family, friends, but there are certain things that you want to keep it to yourself. But at least you need to utter that out, to release it. So that's how I feel. You need to have a plant, you need to have a pet, you need to have a toy with yourself to utter that out. That whatever is going in your head and whatever you are juggling with. So then you feel little relaxed. At least you have said it. Though the plant and the toy is not replying to you, but at least you have said it, and when you are saying it, you are hearing it also yourself. So when you are hearing it, you might as well find a solution to it. So I think this can work in this way. I am not sure whether it is clinically proven or not, but this is how I have experienced myself as well.
No, I think you're absolutely correct, because even when people talk to plants, even they have said that talking to plants also gives them that energy, that you are having a conversation. It helps them to release their stress and their anxiety. And if such simple things are there around us to designed to help us, support us, then why not take advantage of something as simple as talking to a plant?
Yes,
so possible. And coming to this play as therapy for adults, there are now so many even adult coloring books that are also out there. People are working more with their hands, with their fingers, even with clay dough, even with those mushy, clay, or those, what do you call them? The
play dough.
Play dough, and they also become like Very sticky also. They
Yeah,
those jars. So there are so many of these objects now that designed for us to use our hands and to
yeah,
actually help us release our stress and anxiety.
yes,
Can you tell us a little bit more about all of these things, because now they are becoming popular, to be able to draw
yeah,
those mandalas or to have
yeah,
adult coloring books is also
yeah,
a great way to really focus on a task and
yeah.
to relieve yourself of any stress that you feel.
See, for example, you have rightly said about the mandala drawings. Also, we'll take the small example of mandala drawings. It is very intrigue and very detailing is there, and very small parts you have to color. Very, you have to be in that moment to do that. So when you are in that moment and you are not thinking, you are not allowed to think anything when you are in that moment. And when you are in that moment, you don't have those negative thoughts or negative emotions with you. So that is how it works actually. So it is a very, very immersive experience for any adult to be in that moment and to experience that activity which you are doing yourself. And when you finish that activity, definitely it gives sense of relief, sense of achievement to you that you have done it, and sense of pride also that okay, oh my god, I have done this, I didn't know that I can paint also. So I have just experienced that I can paint. I have just explored different hidden talent of myself, that I can paint, I can draw, I can sculpt out of clay, though which children are using. I can make a cartoon character, I can make an animal, I can make anything what I want. So it gives you that sense of satisfaction also. So all these emotions which I have just now said are all positive emotions, are help you to release your good hormones, so you become very positive and you are experiencing that in the moment thing. So that is what is required, and that can be experienced through meditation. And this is the second way to experience that, to be in some activity, to be doing something with your own hand. So why not to do that? Why not to explore? So meditation is also some difficult thing for people to concentrate, sitting in one posture and doing that. So many thoughts are bombarding in your head and coming ahead. But rather than this, if you are not able to meditate, and if you are doing meditative activities, then it is very easy to get immersed into that. So I feel it is a little easy level of meditation than proper meditation. So I think it is very important for any adult, may it be happy adult or emotionally sad or whoever it is. It is for a healthy person to be in some activity or the other. So it is very healthy and very effective. Yeah.
Absolutely. Suhasini, you've also said in the beginning that you take a lot of workshops to also teach adults and children how to
Yep.
make their own toys, how to be able to,
Yes.
make them according to your own, what is in your own mind. How do you
Yes.
design your own toys? Can you tell us about these
Yeah.
workshops that you take and how, and what goes on in that? What is the process of this workshop?
So definitely, this is small example of it. This is a small toy, because in a workshop, why is a small toy? There are two, three reasons to it. One is that in a workshop, the concentration span of any participant is very for a stipulated time, maybe 1 hour or so. So in that workshop, if we take a bigger toy, then they might not finish it. So that is the one reason. Second, if you have a pocket toy like this, you can carry it anywhere you want to be with you. You can make it a key ring. You can make it anything. You can make it a brooch to yourself. You can play with it so many ways to play with it. And if you create your own toy, that gives you immense satisfaction, and that process is so give you so happiness. So what I do is I first ask my participants to draw whatever is in their mind, whatever character or what they would like to see in their toy. So those characteristics, and I nudge them to achieve that in the toy. So second, after that, if it is normally a fabric toy, so whichever is available at your home, maybe your old t-shirt, maybe anything old cloth lying, or maybe you can take a new fabric also. So it is in a way you are upcycling whatever is available at home. Then your drawing is translated into a pattern, uh, through, you are cutting your fabric, and I will not go in much detail. But then after that, you are stitching also, hand stitching without a sewing machine, and then you are filling the fiber out of old. So in this way, you are creating your own toy, and at the end of the day, you find this. So in within 1 hour, whatever you have thought comes in your hand. So what would be more satisfying than this? You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Such a cute little toy that you made. I think you have some more toys that you had made, right? You were
Yeah, yeah.
telling.
So these are called as monster dogs. These are for smaller children. So this is not in the workshop, but this I have. This is my label toys. Like I have sold these toys on Flipkart and Snapdeal also. So these are very lovable, huggable toys and soft toys for children. So yeah, these are little monsters. So yeah.
So,
So
Suhasini, looking at your fabric and the material, now tell me, as a toy designer, with so many toy brands coming into the country, so much of plastic that has been used to make
yeah.
these toys, how are you as a toy designer, ensuring that toys can also be, very sustainable? Are we also, having a lot of wooden toys, or these, cloth, or these felt fabrics that you have used? So, how
Yeah.
are you taking the responsibility as a toy designer to ensure the toys are more sustainable?
So this is a very important factor, Munal. Actually, I'm glad that you asked me this. So sustainability is a very, very important issue these days globally. Also because we are facing so many issues, and toy is also one part of it, right? Children play it for some time and they just discard it or throw it. So it becomes also a, pile somewhere. So why not to make toys sustainable? For example, these are the toys made out of felt, but I make wooden toys also. But when we say wooden toys, cutting tree is not a sustainable thing, right? So how do we ensure that it is a sustainable? I'll quickly tell you. For example, I went to Thailand and I realized I have discovered it there at my client location, that what they are doing actually, they are doing a rubber wood toy. They have a rubber wood forest, and what they are doing is they are taking out latex from the tree, and when the tree is not able to give the latex anymore and the tree is going to die, then they cut the tree and then they take out the wood from that tree. It is not a very, that a flourishing tree is cut and then made it into a toy. So no, it has to be, ethical also to the environment. So this is how, then rubber wood is taken, and it is in the factory setting they make toys, and then they use very natural color pigments which are not very which are chemical free and safe for children. Even if a child puts it in the mouth, it is very safe, and those colors are used, and the entire cycle is sustainable, from making a toy, from taking that latex from the tree, making a toy, and then the packaging of the toy also is recycled cardboard with the soya ink. So whatever they are doing is entirely sustainable, and I am part of it. I design toys for them. So I really, like that process of making toys. That's how I collaborate with them. So this is how we can design sustainable toys. When you come to plastic, so in a way we can make it a sustainable thing also by making monolithic objects. What do you mean by monolithic objects? Is when you don't have many parts to it. Let's say when you don't have a metal part to it, when you don't have any other material, so that when you are recycling it, it is a very a fast process to recycle, and it can be easily recycled when it is a monolithic object. So when, I have to design plastic toys also, sometimes I would be very honest with you, but that time I keep in these things in mind, that it should, how it can be, have less footprints. So that is important thing. Yeah.
So, Asani, coming back towards our topic of mental health, how is play related to imagination, to skill, to development of an individual? How can it help us, become better persons, better leaders? How do you trace the journey of that play, whether it's in a child's life or an adult's life? How does really play as a therapy really empower us to become more creative, better human beings?
Uh, For example, a small child or a toddler, when we say babies, so they have billions of brain cells, right? You imagine when we are born and we are growing up as a baby, we have billions of brain cells and we don't have those connections together, and through play, through toys, when we, because we don't have any other work to do when we are children, apart from playing, apart from eating, apart from sleeping. But when we are not sleeping, when we are not eating, we are playing. So play is the maximum time activity what we do when we are children. So at that time, when we get good toys, then and very effective toys, I mean to say, which helps us to connect the brain cells together to make the connections of the neurons and develop our personality. So when we speak like clinically also, then this is the real reason why do we need toys, to make neuron connections, different connections, and to make the path in our brain for those connections. So that's how we need toys, and through toys we discover different things. We need understand colors, we understand material, we understand expressions, we understand shapes, we understand textures. We are exposed to so many new things in our world. So those exposures can be given through toys, because toys are the ones we are holding it as a babies. So I think toys is the crucial part of our life, and play as a therapy also helps us a lot as adults, as I mentioned earlier, how we can be resilient and we can be self-reliant, we can be emotionally balanced person when we play with toys and when we play with anything, maybe it a board game or anything we can play with. So yeah, we can balance our emotions through it when we are adults, and when we are children, it can help in mental growth and physical growth as well, because toys help us to have those tactile feelings and eye hand coordination, motor skill development. So those also, I mean, these are not just jargons, but these are the actual real time thing which really a toy does to a child. So a toy is very, very important in everybody's life.
So even some things
So
like playing cards or playing as a family coming together and playing board games. There's so many board games today which are very interesting, where
yes,
all different age groups can come together. So
yeah,
cards, board games, this would also be considered as play.
yeah, absolutely. It's a social play when we are playing with our peers, when we are playing with our person. I mean, and we are playing with our children also. So we are, through this we are bonding with each other. Our relationships become better when we are playing together. So I think it is very important for relationship goals also to play together, to express together, to express your joy, to express your feeling. To sometimes you become very naughty person. Sometimes you become very happy person. You are pulling each other's leg. So all the emotions are mixing together, good emotions, and you are playing together. So it is really very interesting, and I love playing with my family. So I love card games, board games. So it is very, very, and why to relate it to only summer holidays? You can play it anytime.
So how can play be there as a part of our life every single day? How should we include play in our daily life? And what can you also, within that, what can also be unstructured and yet what can also be structured? How do we play every day?
So you can play within also. You can play with your thoughts. You can be joyful. You can be happy all the time. And maybe, you can be smiling all the time. And this is also part of play. You are playful, you are joyful. So this is how you can begin. Then second thing is you bring any object to include any object to your life. For example, a toy, a plant, or a pet, or any other thing to your life which you are talking to, which you are relating to, and which you become very close to, which you have a bond with. So that bonding is also very important. So this is how you can include play in your life, by bonding with that object, by bonding with that particular a living being or a plant or anything. So these are the small things which you can do to make your life playful.
Right, even playing a musical instrument, right? Even learning
Absolutely.
guitar, also a
Absolutely.
form of play.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
always say you're playing music. You're going to work, but you're playing music. So already no one says you're working the music, but you're playing the music.
Yes.
And it is a part of play.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So Hasani, for all our students or say designers who are also listening to us, what is the really what's the career of a toy designer like? How would you encourage people to come in this field? How should they be prepared? How open should they be? What really goes on into what is the understanding of really becoming a toy designer?
First of all, you should have childlike imagination. You be a childlike, be childlike, I mean, forever. Then you can think on in the perspective of a child, like, because as a toy designer, if you are designing toys, you should understand children very well, and you should be in their shoes to understand them. So you don't have to be very serious about it. It's a very nice thing to, it's a very joyful thing to work on, to make a toy for a kid. So it gives you immense satisfaction to do that. That you are making something which, it's transferring, it's making a person and giving a personality to the person. So you are creating a person, you are creating a persona with your toy. So that is a big responsibility at the same time. So you need to have understanding of material and processes, different techniques, different manufacturing processes. So this comes when easily when you are in the field, when you are working there. So you need to understand manufacturer's point of view. You need to make a toy very cost effective. So these are the also very important factor when you are a designer, how to make any product very cost effective, so that we get it in a good price to the consumers. It should not be, if the design is such that it is can't made, design should be simple, so the investment should be lower all the time. So these are the factors we have to keep in mind as a designer, apart from play as a factor. How the toy should be made, how easily the toy should be made, for a manufacturing process or any other factors also. So that is actually another very detailed topic to discuss. Today we are discussing play as a therapy. So I think,
Are
yeah,
your favorite toy designers?
my favorite. So right now I have this in my hand. So whichever is in my hand is my favorite.
Okay.
And all my toys which I've made and all other toys which are available, all toys are my favorite actually. Uh, in fact, spending time with the toy and that time which you are spending and the memories which you are creating, that is what I like, and that is my favorite, not the any particular object actually.
No, but
So
whose work really inspires you the most as a toy designer? Which other toy designer's work has really been for you?
actually, frankly speaking, honestly speaking, I have not followed anybody's work. I made my own path and my own journey past 16 years. So I have really not followed who is doing what and who are all designing what kind of toys. Seriously, I'm not much, into that. So I have always been that I want to do this, I will create this, I will make this. I have set my own benchmarks. So there were nobody in India whom I could follow actually. So, and globally also there are very less toy designers. This profession is very niche actually. So there are only, you can count it on fingertips actually. So
Wow.
honestly, I don't have any one particular person whom I can, but I have lot of inspiration from different domains. May it be a fashion designer, may it be a Bollywood actor, a singer, or any socialite. May it be you also. I mean, you inspire me so much. So I have so many inspirations around me from different domains of life. So not one particular person for one, all the things, but little bit from everyone.
Thank you so much Suhasini, for giving us such a beautiful conversation and an understanding of what goes on behind not just designing of toys, but understanding what the design process is, how it really impacts our mental health, and the importance of just free, unstructured play. Even a simple act of talking to your potted plant can really help you release so many of your pent-up emotions and your anxiety. And I've learned so much from you today that I think we will never take a single toy for granted after this.
Thank you.
Toy that we pick up, we will see, where one consciously now will start looking at the toy in terms of design, what its impact, or what it's meant to do to us, and also to when we gift toys for other children as well.
Yeah.
Also look at sustainability as a factor, and
Yes,
of open-ended toys which can really help create more imagination for children as well. It's really been such a pleasure to have you with us today. We've learned so much from you. It's been so exciting to know about your journey, and this is such a niche field, as you said, as being a toy designer, and its impact on mental health as well. How
yes.
both the ends come together.
Thank you so much, and I really like the kind of questions that you have asked me and the kind of conversation that you had. So I really enjoyed it a lot. Very less time I get to answer such questions, and this topic is really, really very close to my heart. How to balance emotions and how to be involved in what you are doing actually, rather than just talking about a toy technically. But these are an emotional aspect, how we are connecting ourselves with toys. So this was a very actually for the first time I'm having this conversation online with someone, and I'm really thankful to you to bringing up this topic, and really enjoyed it a lot. And in future also I would like to be associated with, we are in this together, so I am with you in this together, I would again say that. And thank you.
We are both in this together, and
Yes.
the next toy making workshop with you, we should also be a great follow-up on this, because now that we've understood the whole psychology behind all of this, now to be actually immersing ourselves into making our own toy for ourselves will be such a different, enriching experience, and we can't really wait to have you back very soon.
Same here. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for being
here.
Thank you so much to all our participants who have attended this today's Play as Therapy workshop, and hope to see you all very soon. You know where to find us. We are on Instagram, we are on Facebook. Our website is www.waitt.in. Any other requests that you have, any other people that you wish to listen to, we would love to hear from you and connect with you on our website. Thank you all so much for being here. Thank you, Suhasini, for giving your time.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.